Okay, folks, good morning and welcome to Coffee with Bob. And what we're going to talk about this morning is the sell off in the equity markets overnight. Now, CNBC's headlines has the blame placed upon the new variant that's out there. Here we go. Here it is. A new variant found in South Africa. You know, who knows? Who knows? This is not, we're heading into a time frame now where I've gone over this on Sunday Night Futures live ad nauseum about the valuation of the market, how extended we are technically, and now the fact that you have the Federal Reserve that is out there and they are doing a quasi interest rate hike by not buying back as much debt, and that's driving yields up higher. So they want to blame it on a COVID variant. Guess what? I'm going to blame it on the fact that the Federal Reserve is beginning their taper, and it's a perfect storm of the markets being so technically extended and the valuations of the market being frothy as well. And the earnings, let's face it, are near an end. You do have some technology companies coming out next week, Salesforce.com, a couple other ones coming out next week. But by and large, the earnings seasons are, and the theme of this past quarter was forward-looking guidance is not wonderful. So they can blame the COVID variant all they want. I'm not buying into it. So let's begin here with first an apology. I do not have my microphone. I'm still traveling. I'm still down in Tampa. And here's my brother's backyard. Beautiful backyard. Got a beautiful lake back there. And great Thanksgiving Day yesterday. And hope you had a great one with your family. And my brother's getting married tomorrow, so we're looking forward to a great weekend for marriage, and they're going to have it in that backyard, so it's going to be nice. So I'm waiting for people to populate in here. That's why I'm jabbering along. Let's do a look at the futures action. You can see the Russell 2000 is getting hammered like a baby seal. It's down over 3%, 3.33% right now. It's trying to bounce back. We have broken several support levels. Now, I want to go to the Dow last because, frankly, that's one of the more surprising indexes for me that we're not seeing more in terms of a move lower. But let's go to the S&Ps. S&P's down a little over 1.5% on the morning. Now let's take a look at the Nasdaq. The Nasdaq's down less than a percentage point. So it looks like what they're doing here is what they have been doing is keeping a bid under the Microsofts of the world. Microsoft closed at 337.91. It is down in the pre-market, to be fair, down 334.62. Apple, the second largest component after Microsoft, closed at 161.94, is down a couple of points. But these are negligible moves. So on a relative basis, relative to the small caps, the mega cap tech names are holding their own this morning. Let's take a look at a couple of positions I have open. Zoom is up. What the heck? What happened here? I have options expiring on Zoom today. We sold a strangle trade, so we're the financiers. We're not the buyers of the options. We're the sellers, and those options expire worthless today, which is great for us. So good. This is good news. Oh God. The reason why it's up is because Kathy Wood out of the ARC funds is buying more Zoom. Here are her new positions. DK, she's buying the dip here. I know DKNG is down, and that's not something that she does. I don't know why she's buying more hood. She's averaging down her position there. Some of these other symbols I'm not aware of what they are, but I do know DraftKings. CRISPR's that's a good name. Let's check out CRISPR really quick. That's one I've been eyeballing. I haven't looked at it in the past week or so. It was under a lot of pressure, beginning to stabilize. And it's pulled back to the 80s now. Wow. I think she's on point here, at least with CRISPR. We could see the 70s yet again on CRISPR, especially this morning. But we're close to what could definitely be deemed a near-term bottom on CRISPR. Let's go to comments, if there are any. No, I don't have any. Let's go full screen. How do I get this off here? Captions, chat. Graphics, where is it? I can make the screen bigger, so that's what I'm going to try to do here. Here we go. Let's get rid of that. Good. Is that better? All right, let's go back to the futures action. Let's take a quick look at gold. Gold actually just came off the highs of the session. It was high. It's back above 1,800 the ounce. Very bullish. But obviously it needs to close there. Let's take a look at the mining stocks. Mining stocks are up this morning. That's good. This is NUGT. So we're in the right place here with the mining stocks. If anybody has some symbols they want me to go over, please let me know. Another options trade besides CRM that we're going to look to put on next week is going to be Crowdstrike. We traded this one last quarter. It worked out very well. Roku appeared on our watch list on the night before last as an extreme oversold stock. RSI is around 19 on a daily time frame. So this is one where we may dip our toe in the water and trade it. But there's still some downside to go on Roku. Longer term, short term, you may have a pop to the upside. Let's take a quick look at the chart. Here's the weekly chart. Excuse me. Weekly chart is actually looking pretty good. I mean, it's a down week, but you have a W formation getting formed here On your Stokes, it's a momentum indicator. It's not just two squiggly lines. What this implies is momentum. Is it waning? Is it building? Is it consolidating and getting ready to hook up? I would argue we're getting ready to hook up. Let's go to the daily chart. Same thing here on a daily time frame now. Oh, it popped up. Last time I looked, this was oversold. It was down below 20 on RSI. So we've already had a pop here. Bullish key reversal bar on Roku. We'll probably get a short-term rally on Roku, perhaps up to the 20-period moving average. Let's see whether or not that holds. I doubt it. You're going to get a pullback and a higher low. So right now, this is still, if the markets were to bounce back prior to the open, or we get a rally off the lows of the session, then Roku might be a trade. With the pressure on the markets right now, I would be wary of trading beaten up stocks, because beaten up stocks or weak stocks tend to get weaker. So just be careful with your bottom buying here. Oil earlier was taking it on the chin. So when you look at this, and later on when the transports open up, we'll take a look at those as well. When you're looking at the energy stocks and you're saying, okay, what's going on here? When you see oil down, you have a fear of growth. And we've been seeing this of late. You've seen a little bit of weakness in the energy stocks, a little bit of a bounce back. But now you have oil rolling over yet again. Let's take a look at a weekly chart, get a feel for a more macro view. You can see this is what we're on par. And if you would have asked me this question, I wouldn't have answered it correctly. Because given the prior strength of oil, I never would have guessed that we've been down now 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the 5th consecutive down week for oil. And we're probably going lower. We're probably going down here where we saw support back in July, where we consolidated, and ultimately we actually broke down, found another support level, and then rallied. Let's take a look if there's any comments. Nothing. Everybody's quiet today. Oh, there we go. Usually this has this icon right here which says chat has an orange when there's a comment, and for whatever reason there was none for Eric. Eric, good morning, man. DWAC, yeah, that's a good story to tell. The last time I spoke about it, we had broken support, and it's worth going back to. I'm glad you brought it up. Thank you for that. Now, DWAC had a nice day, the last trading day. Here we go. Let's begin first with a weekly chart to get the feel of where we're at on a closing basis. Remember today, folks, too, before I go into this chart, and I forget, while the futures are down very heavily, and we do not want to ignore them. It's a one-day event on the very, very thin volume. Right? It's a half day today. So you don't know whether or not this market's getting manipulated right now. So be careful. And I would not go buying dips today if we close near the lows of the day. All right, so weekly chart of DWAC. This is Trump's, to me, still a SPAC. All it is a hedge fund right now, looking for opportunities. We are still down below weekly support. So would I advocate a buy here? The only time I would advocate a buy, let's update this chart because I hate my support level. Let's clean this up. That's better. So you show me a close. Actually, we broke down last week. You show me a close back above $52.77 to $53 a share, then it becomes interesting to me. But right now, what we're seeing is, unless of course there's been news out that I haven't caught on to, and this is really a stock that you need to be paying attention to the news cycle. If you're not, and you're putting money to work here, you're gambling. Sorry about that noise. I hate it. Drives me nuts. I wish Windows would get rid of it. All right, so we don't have a move in the pre-market session. We're now down at, wow, we're down at 40. Oh, this is looking interesting. This is looking interesting. I'm trying to get a feel for the news cycle. I don't think there's much out there. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Elizabeth Warren called for SEC to investigate Trump's SPAC. This is on the 18th, though. Trump's SPAC deal with DWAC, of course. Government in action. Digital World acquisition shares up 12%. Traders viewing stock as sympathy play for energy capital, SPAC with e-commerce, blah, 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 blah. There's nothing happening here. There's zero. So you're looking at a pullback here. And the problem is this, is that with the limited data that we have on DWAC, I love to be the guy to go in and say, listen, you got to buy this stock with a 40 handle on it. Right down here was where we're going to open up. This is not at current in the pre-market. We're not at the lows of the week. The low of the week is 38.03. We're still above that mark. But the concern is here, do we break to a new weekly low? Right? If we do, the problem is that we need to look back in history and say, okay, where do I have support below? It's very hard to tell because we had that one big drive up and no real time, with the exception of, the shares being halted for trade, for the stock to consolidate at any type of price point. I wouldn't call a halting of trade a good area to identify where you have support. So here's your bounce back off of the third standard deviation Bollinger Band. This is a 4-hour chart now. And again, you don't have, even on a 4-hour chart, you don't have a lot of support below. So if you're going to play this trade, I think what you got to do is you need to wait for a bullish reversal day, the selling to end. Today we're down. The question that should be asked is, do we break to new weekly lows? If we do, then you got to avoid, because the probability of us making new lower lows next week is pretty high. So we need to worry about the probabilities right now, absent any news. Once we get news and we get momentum behind the shares, then we could take some action. Then we can put on more risk. Right now, it's just a matter of identifying when the selling pressure ends and how this day wraps up. Today's going to be a very important day. It's going to close at 1 o'clock today. So let's see how it closes. Take a breath. No rush here. And then we'll reevaluate. I own DWAC. I have a very small position. I sold mine way up here, and I bought back in down here. I'm looking to add more, but I don't want to average down. If I add more, I want it to be for a reason, whether it be technically or even better on news. So that's the story. Hope that helped. Larry, good morning from Louisville. Good morning to you, my friend. My broker likes banks, in particular JP Morgan. Can we trust big banks after 2008? It's easy to trust the regional banks. I think you can trust the bigger banks because they're the Federal Reserve has done a fairly good job of stress testing them. They're not in any way in the same position they were back in the financial crisis. So we have the trade on the banks. It's going to be an interesting day today in terms of watching. You're welcome, Eric. In terms of watching how they hold up, Yields obviously are going to be the big player, the big question mark, because you need rising yields for the banks to begin to outperform. So when I'm talking about the banks, the first thing I'm going to do is, even before I go to the chart, which we'll do in a moment, I want to take a look at the 10-year Treasury note. And right now, you're seeing money move in out of fear. Money's moving out of fear into gold. It's moving into bonds. My guess is also into the US dollar. Actually, no, I'm wrong. It's moving out right now. So they're selling the dollar. That's going to keep a bid under the gold mining stocks. I'm not getting off on a tangent here. I want to see what the gold mining stocks are doing. Not much movement since we last spoke. Okay, let's go back to bond yield. So bond note prices. So bond note prices are moving higher. That means yields are moving lower. We need to expect that. Now taking a look at the chart. Let's bring up the XLF because I have a bull flag set up there. Okay, so the banks this week are looking pretty good. In fact, before we talk about the daily chart, let's take a step back and take a look at the weekly chart. And I know you asked about the regional banks versus the money center banks. I get you. But we have a position here, so I'm going to focus on that for a moment. We're not long of the XLF, we're long of the FAS, leverage DTF, putting you long of the banks. That being said, very similar chart setup on the FAS as to what you're seeing on the XLF. And so far this week, the same chart setup you see on a daily time frame, you're seeing on a weekly time frame, and it's looking pretty bullish. So I'm not going to buy more of the banks until we ultimately break out above this upper band of resistance. So if the question is do we get a sell-off? Do we give up the weekly gains on the rally in bond prices today and the pullback on yields? We don't know, right? We're not that smart. The market's going to tell us what direction we're going to take. For all I know, we'll get a rally back in the markets today. The bond yields will drive back up higher today. Maybe we'll get a breakout on the banks. We just don't know. Today in particular is going to be a very, very thin volume day. So please be careful. So on the daily chart, we're flirting, excuse me, we're flirting with a breakout. You could argue that we did break out. I've been away so long, I don't know what day it is. Today's Friday. You could argue that we broke out on the 23rd here. And then we got a retest on the 24th. Let's see whether or not that holds up, whether or not that's true. If it is, if we did get a continuation move up higher, I will be buying more bank stocks. But I'm going to stay fairly tame here because of the pre-market trading action. I mean, we haven't seen a down session like this in quite some time. And the question is, does it have legs? Will there be, what I mean by that is, okay, if we do close down today, we do not get a rally back. Do we close near the lows of the session? If we do, then the probability of new lower lows going into the next week is pretty high. If we rally back some, who knows? Maybe next week we'll gap up higher. We'll have an inside day on Monday, and that'll be it. We'll have a typically seasonal, strong seasonal December. It's rare that you get a down December, but you never know nowadays. Let's go to comments. YCW, is the sell-off because of low volume or should we sell now? I don't want to tell anybody to sell right now. I mean, I'll take you back to, I forget what holiday it was. but it was it was a Sunday. I'm sorry, it wasn't even a holiday. It was back here, in fact. I was live, and I had already gone over the chart of gold. It was a Sunday night. So you think about it, it's a Sunday night, very thin volume. Asia's not open. Europe's not open. US just opens on very thin volume. And we're analyzing the gold stocks. And what they did is they hammered the futures here, right here. They hammered the futures market with about $1 billion worth of selling to drive down gold. So they did it on very, very thin volume. They manipulated the gold markets. And it was only a couple of days later where we were back up again. And now we've made new higher highs. So I'm reluctant to say on an abbreviated post-holiday session in the pre-markets, with the Dow futures down, at last look, they were down 827 points. Russell's down over 3%. I'm very reluctant to say, you know what, you got to panic and you got to start running in there because there's some variant out of South Africa. I'm not buying that line. They love to look at the setup. Here's what they love to do. They love to find a situation where you have, yes, this market is technically overbought and definitely overvalued, right? So we have that scenario set up where you can have a major, major correction in this market. Then they like to label it. They want to say, okay, van out of South Africa, fear, 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 sell, sell, sell. Then what do? They drive the markets back up higher. So I'm not going to be the guy that comes on YouTube screaming Chicken Little that you got to start dumping your stocks right now. But nor am I going to be the guy that comes on and say, you know what, buy this dip. I'm going to be the guy that says, you know what, take a breath. It's an abbreviated day. Let's see how we close on the day. Do we close at the lows? If yes, then I'm going to be a lot more focused on the news over the weekend. And then I'm going to be interested to see whether or not we get a continuation move lower when we move into a full trading week next week. And that's the way I'm going to play it. So in all probability, I'm going to let all my options expire worthless today. Those are profits. Those aren't losses. Those are profits because we're selling the option premium. We're the banker. We're not the borrower. So I'm not going to do much today. I will be looking at the markets, the news flow over the weekend, and taking a look at the futures on Sunday night. So that's the way I would play it. Don't let these people get under your skin. That's what they do. This is an attempt to get you to motivate you to do something, either buy or sell. One of the two. Don't let that be you. Okay. All right, everyone. I hope everybody, again, had a really great Thanksgiving. Thanks for joining in. Members, if I make any trades today, I'll let you know. I'll send out an alert. Probably not going to be much happening on this end because I want to take a look at how the session plays out because I'm looking into next week already. I'm not looking at today. I'm looking to next week because, again, I've repeated this once. I'm going to repeat it for a second time now. It doesn't matter where we trade intraday today. What matters is where we close. If we close at the lows of the session, that makes next week not looking all that bright. If we rally off the lows of the session today, we close positive, well, the pump and dump is still on here, right? The rally is still strong, and they're probably going to take it higher up into December. Should they? Not given the technicals and the valuation of the market, probably not. But what I think means zero. They're going to dictate the movement of the market. So all I'm going to be doing is doing the pulse check. Let's take a look at how we are leveling out here in the pre-market. The Russell, which was down over 3%, has come back a little bit. We're struggling to recapture these two support levels. now resistance because we haven't closed there. The Nasdaq, it's off the session lows. You can see how, I'm sorry, I said the Nasdaq, S&P 500. The S&P 500 bounced off of what was resistance back here, and then we ultimately broke out of, is now support. Does it hold? That's the question mark. We don't know that yet. Now the Nasdaq, on a percentage basis relative to the other indexes I just went over, is not down anywhere near as much. But technically, we broke down below this support level and we're fading off of it. So I'm wondering whether or not this sell-off on the Nasdaq is going to build here a little bit. And you can see we're down 0.91%. So if we close down below, let's call it, where are we at here? 1612. You're probably going to see some additional selling on the Nasdaq. If we close above it on this 4-hour bar, that 4-hour bar closes at 9 a.m. So a lot can happen here. You'll probably see some buying. So with that, make sure there's no comments. I addressed everybody's questions. Again, I'm sorry for not having my additional monitor. Paul, good morning to you. Hope you had a great Thanksgiving. All right, no additional comments. All right, folks, with that, everybody have a really great weekend. Members, I'll be in contact if we do anything. And until Sunday night, I'll talk to you soon. Be well.